is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet.
Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
And how are we doing out there all across this great land of ours and around the world? I am your host, John Matthews. You're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, and I am so glad you took the time to join us today, this nice sunny Friday out here in California, day after St. Patrick's Day. And, I was going to make a statement yesterday about St. Patrick's Day. I think I said something about it. But I wanted to offer my apologies to all great Americans who have had to witness what it means to be a bad Irishman. And what I mean by that is looking at the makeup of many of our politicians today, people like John Kerry, Joe Biden, the Kennedys, the list goes on. People who claim Irish heritage and have nothing, just like people who claim to be Americans and have no evidence of being either one. So it just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover, eh? So anyway, glad to have you with us today. And hey, I want to let you know, just off the top here, just real quick here. I was able to pick up, I was able to view the movie today, Miracles from Heaven. One of the theaters in our neighborhood put it on very early in the morning, relatively early by California standards. And most movies don't start out here till usually somewhere around 11 or 12 o'clock. And they had an early viewing today at 9:30 in the morning, so I was able to pick it up. Tremendous movie. I really enjoyed it. And but I did note one thing. You know me. There's a cynical side to me on almost everything, especially when it comes to religious movies. And one of the producers, there were several. One of the producers is an enterprise called TDJ Enterprise. And I immediately looked at that as it was coming up on the screen, and I realized they were talking about TD Jakes. And sure enough, TD Jakes Enterprise is a movie-producing company run by TD Jakes Ministry. And, while I like the movie, and I'm certainly not above or, I'm not so self-righteous and that I would say, it's not good that people have this kind of thing. There are other religious entities out there. Mel Gibson's Icon Productions, he uses that Catholic influence and claims that some of his movies are based on his beliefs. Of course, Ray Comfort, who is a very good friend of mine out here with Living Waters, has done many things with Kirk Cameron. And, so there is good stuff coming out of the Christian community here. So I'm not really blasting or saying anything else. I just thought it rather interesting that it would be called TDJ Enterprises instead of something that might just perhaps give a little bit more glory to God instead of themselves, just a thought. But the movie itself, very good movie. And so anyway, let's see, what are we going to do today? We've spent almost the entire week here talking about the establishment. Revelation for me over the past few weeks of what actually makes up the establishment. You always know that when we talk about political entities, that there's many arms of any political organization, whether it be a party or an organization itself. And I've always kind of just, when I talk, from my perspective, when I talk about political parties or the political establishment, for the most part, I've been centered mostly on those people sitting in Congress, those people who have allowed their views to be influenced, that are willing to compromise their values and we're willing to go against a party platform. And I think some of these people today in Congress don't even know what the party platform is. They just use words like conservative and limited government and things like that, and not even knowing what they mean. And I've got an article today that might just kind of bear some of that out for you today. But I have become more convinced that it is less about the politicians and it is more about the people that feed the politicians. It's the zookeepers out there, the people with the big bucks that are influencing everything that's going on. And I think I commented earlier in the week that is really what it's all about. When we hear the left talk about the rich controlling the strings of the Republican Congress or Senate, they're not off the mark at all. But of course, they never mention that they too are on the end of strings held by people who are trying to take the wealth of one side and move it over to the other. So, that's competition at a different level. That's the ultimate capitalistic competition. It's the rich and wealthy trying to take the money from the other rich and wealthy. A revisited or resurrected feud between the Rockefellers, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and some of the others out there that helped form this great country when it entered into the industrial age. And that is when special interest really came into existence. So just interesting, but that's what we've been doing. This week, today, we're going to try to sum up the week with some things that I'm going to share with you that'll just kind of hopefully put things into that big picture I've been trying to shoot for all week long. So that's what we're going to do today. We'll be with Bob Cardoza at the bottom of the hour from Robert Cardoza Live and see what's on Bob's mind. And but some real interesting things out here. So this segment here, our opening segment, we don't really talk a whole lot about a lot of things. But one of the things I'd like to share with you in a couple moments that we have here before we go to our first break, and that is an article that I pulled up today from Associated Press by Ted Brightus and Jack Gillum. And it is an article, the U.S. government sets record for failures to find files when asked. The most transparent presidency in the history of the world, according to Barack Obama, has set records on their inability to manifest documents that have been requested through the proper channels or the time that it takes for these documents to come into the public arena, which is allowed by law. So I'm going to talk about that here at the break, right after the break here. I'll share this a little bit with you here. The FBI, who's right now investigating Hillary Clinton for possible security breaches or corruption charges, using her influence as Secretary of State for personal profit and gain, funneling and laundering money through the Clinton Foundation. The FBI couldn't find any records in 39% of the cases, or 5,168 times that they were asked to produce documentation through the Freedom of Information Act. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, that oversees New York and New Jersey, couldn't find anything 58% of the time. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection people couldn't find anything in 34% of the instances they were requested to provide documentation. Wow. Talk about, and so much money being spent on government and these agencies. Of course, I can tell you, as somebody who used to work for the government and the Department of Defense, this is not surprising. It's not surprising. So we'll talk a little bit more about that after the break here. We're coming up on our first break. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
We are back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews. Glad you took the time to join us today, and I want to get into our segments here. A little clearing my nose today. I got a little bit of a blocked ear today, so if you hear me scuttling around here, you'll know why. Anyway, I had just mentioned before the break an article that I ran across from Associated Press today by Ted Brightus and Jack Gillum. And it is another revelation of yet another, more evidence, as if we really need any more. But apparently we do. Because we still have, currently we have a Democratic candidate who may be indicted before she makes it into office or shortly after she takes office if she should win. And she's still garnering about 60% of the vote of the people in that particular demographic, meaning that party affiliation, which is very telling as to as I refer to it, the Gruber theorem, the stupidity of the American voter. But one of the things Obama has always tried to convince the American public is that his administration has been the most transparent administration of any presidency before him. Every chance he's got, and every chance his buddy Josh Earnest, there himself, a paradoxical name, Josh Earnest. Think about the irony of that. Boy, I wonder what his parents would think when they named him that. But anyway, this article, U.S. government sets record for failures to find files when asked. And I'm just going to read you some of these numbers real quick so that you get an idea of what's going on here. It says here in the final figures released during President Barack Obama's presidency, the U.S. government set a record last year for the number of times federal employees told disappointed citizens, journalists, and others that despite searching, they couldn't find a single page of files requested under the Freedom of Information Act. In more than 1 in 6 cases, or 129,825 times, government searchers said they came up empty-handed, according to a new Associated Press analysis. The FBI couldn't find any records in 39% of the cases, or 5,168 times. The Environmental Protection Agency regional office that oversees New York and New Jersey couldn't find anything 58% of the time, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Services couldn't find anything in 34% of the cases. And it goes on to say here, Justice Department spokeswoman Beverly Lumpkin said the administration answered more record requests and reduced its backlog of leftover requests, which should be considered good work on the part of the government in fulfilling information requests. See, this is how the Obama administration can twist numbers. This is always what they've done in this administration, is twisting numbers. Unemployment is at a record low. It hasn't been this low since before President Bush was in office. But they don't tell you that when you look at how they skew the numbers to get it down to below 5%, that it's a complete and total sham and lie. People are out of work, not looking for work anymore. All of a sudden, they're assumed to have found work. People that are taking part-time jobs are underemployed, taking positions with companies not equal to or on par with what they were doing before the recession. Well, that's job creation. Creating public sector jobs, 16,000 agents, new agents in the IRS, and some of these other bureaucracies, like perhaps the Environmental Protection Agency. And that's job creation. Part-time jobs is job creation. Everything is job creation. And so this president's out there saying, oh, we've created about 80 million jobs. And yet the number of unemployed people in this country has virtually remained unchanged since he came into office. About 95 million people in America are not working. That number has not changed. So where do you get all these numbers that unemployment's down? It's not down. Look at the black community. Almost 25% unemployment rate in the black community. You know that in the black youth community, people under 20 years old, the unemployment rate is over 50%. But Obama can tell you that they've created more jobs than any other president. They've restored the unemployment rate down to record numbers because the economy is recovered and of course, never recovering the way it should be. Well, there's so much more to do, and we got so much more to do. But, old dad out there who spent 25 years at a firm and got laid off and now flipping burgers at McDonald's, well, at least he's working. So that's job creation in the eyes of the government. And so when they say, well, you know what, we have all these instances here of not being able to find information, but we've cleared our logbooks out. Well, how have you cleared your logbooks out? By saying, well, we don't have the information, you erased it from the book. And that should be taken as a sign that we've done more than any other administration. We've done more to fulfill all these requests. We just haven't been able to give them anything. That's how we did it. That's how we decrease illegal immigration. We stop them at the border and we send them back home. Okay, and so that means we've deported them. It doesn't mean they've come into the country and we've made them go back. We're saying, oh, well, we stopped more people at the border than anybody else and we haven't let them in. Therefore, it's counted as a deportation. And so Obama can say, I'm doing my job. I'm deporting more people than any other president has ever deported. That's how the liberals play the numbers game. And why is that? The Gruber theorem. The stupidity of the American voter never really cares to find out on what basis this information is being disseminated, or examine or speculate as to what any motive is behind it. Now, having said that, I said all that to say this. This is how the establishment functions. Now, we think, okay, again, now your first impression is, well, this is what these guys are. Barack Obama's an establishment guy. No, Barack Obama hasn't been around long enough to be part of the establishment. His association with the establishment is like every other politician. He was lifted up, funded, and promoted by the establishment. He was chosen to be the carrier of the message of progressivism. We're going to take this and see just how far we can go with it. We've been doing it over the last 5-6 decades on an accelerated pace by just silencing our opposition. Little by little, the Republican Party became just like the Democrat Party, and because the establishment on both sides don't really care who wins or loses in the ideological battles. The cultural battles mean nothing. The cultural battles are only important in terms of how they're going to market something, but it has no impact on how the nation is going to be governed. Okay, so what we need to discover, or what we need to really come to this really thorough revelation understanding of, is that the establishment are the people behind the politicians. So we can't call Barack Obama an establishment type just yet. Once he gets out of office and he starts doing the Clinton thing, once he's out there using his influence to make money and getting paid those $500,000 to go to these universities and these corporate places to make speeches about the evils of corporate, the corporate giants. Of course, you go to Goldman Sachs and all of a sudden the corporate giants become your friends, that kind of thing. Obama's well on his way to becoming an establishment type. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, is the establishment. And what makes her even more dangerous is she's a player in the establishment. See, most of these establishment people are behind the scenes. If I gave you names, just the names I gave you this week, regarding the segment that we covered, we spent a whole day covering this one particular segment. You might recognize two of the names only because they held office at one time. The former head of the RNC and Vin Berger, who used to be a congressman. But I can guarantee you the other people, you probably don't even know who they are. Because they're people, they're rich elitists behind the scenes. They're the ones that punch up the bucks. The politicians are the ones that do the work. So they're basically hired. The politicians are hired by corporate heads or people who have wealth through inheritance. People like John Kerry. The guy's never worked a day in his life. Okay, he served in the military. I'll give him that. But he's never really worked a day in his life. He inherited money, married money. Okay? Old money, new money. You ever remember those phrases? Interesting examination of that stuff. But anyway, my point being is that when this kind of stuff happens, now I got about 5 minutes for a break here, so I wanted to get into this one other article here. So the Obama administration is transparent, but they haven't been able to, in record numbers, provide information through the Freedom of Information Act when it's been requested, or if they have, it's taken literally years to get it. That's why something like Hillary Clinton, remember when the State Department says we don't have any emails, and all of a sudden 10,000 showed up? That's what I'm talking about. That's example what I'm talking about. But here's something. This really will drive home to you the establishment idea of what I'm saying here. Article here by CBS News. In private, Obama warns of Bernie Sanders flagging campaign. In a private meeting last week, President Obama told donors that Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign is nearing its end and that Democrats must soon rally around frontrunner Hillary Clinton, according to a New York Times report released Thursday. In what the Times called unusually candid remarks after an Austin, Texas fundraising event for the Democratic National Committee. What am I reading from? Obama was at a fundraising event for the Democratic National Committee in Austin, Texas. And the president broke from his usually neutral position in his party's primary to discuss the prospects and flaws of each candidate. Of Clinton, Mr. Obama acknowledged that his former Secretary of State had a problem with being perceived as inauthentic among voters. The president noted, however, that authenticity wasn't always the key to a successful White House term, and cited former President George W. Bush's own perception as an authentic figure. Listen to that. Listen to that, and let me interpret that for you. The definition of inauthentic. Obama saying, yeah, Hillary has a reputation problem. She's not seen as authentic. What that means is she's not seen as likable. She's not seen as personable. It has nothing to do with integrity, honesty, or anything else. Ethics, none of that matters. The authenticity is how you present yourself, and she cannot present herself to the American public as being likable and personable. She said the other night in one of her own comments after one of the rallies, I am not a politician by nature, meaning she is not somebody who can present herself as being likable and personable. She is a politician and she knows how to use influence, and she knows how to cover her ass wherever she goes. The Clintons are great at that. They are masters of that. Okay, now, here's the phrase I want you to pay attention to. While Mr. Obama reportedly said he was aware that some Democratic voters were not excited by Clinton's candidacy, he still sang her praises. He still sang her praises to donors and said she would follow in his administration's footsteps. Barack Obama went to this fundraiser at $33,000+ a plate to assure people that are donating money to the campaigns understand that even though Clinton is not seen as authentic or likable, that she would continue in his footsteps. So he went to this thing to basically reassure, appease, and placate donors who are feeling a little shaky about the idea that Hillary Clinton may not win. And if that's the case, then their interests, the interests that Barack Obama is saying he has been promoting and advancing because Hillary Clinton would keep his administration going. See, there's the establishment. The establishment were these people at the fundraiser paying $33,000+ a plate to listen to the man that has been hired by them 8 years ago, reassuring them that by giving money into her campaign that they will continue to advance and promote the agenda of those people sitting at that fundraiser. There is your establishment. There is the perfect example of what I mean by the establishment. We'll talk about this a little bit more because now what we're saying, just let me part with this. The fundraiser was held by real estate executive Kirk Rudy. Real estate executive Kirk Rudy. Do you know of any other real estate executives out there, like maybe Donald Trump? Guests paid $33,400 a ticket to attend this event. Boy, does that sound familiar? Real estate executive Kirk Rudy. Donald Trump is a nuisance and somebody to be ostracized in the political arena. But apparently, if you are a Kirk Rudy in Austin, Texas, and you can get $33,000+ a plate at a fundraiser, You need to be stroked and told and reassured that the person you're paying money to support is going to continue to do what they're doing, and that is to represent your interests and not those of the American people. We'll be right back. It's time for a break. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed-rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, mad prophet of the airways on a mission from God, and that mission is to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We're getting ready here now to hook up with our good buddy Bob Cardosa over at Robert Cardosa Live. Here's our Friday segment with him, and we'll see what's hot on his plate, see where he's going, what's first and foremost in his mind.
John Matthews in the Conservative Syndicate simulcast. Hey, John, how are you this afternoon?
How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing well, very well, as a matter of fact, because it's Friday, John.
Yeah, we're just sitting here. We're just talking in the chat room here with some of our people here, and then they asked me how I was. I said, "That's great. It's Friday."
You know what? You can't beat that, right?
No, you can't beat it with a stick.
No, that's for sure. Hey, listen, I wanted to ask you. We got plenty of time, but I wanted to get right into it. And I know that I was telling my listeners how it can sometimes be a little bit difficult for you and I to do our simulcast because you're doing 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, dealing with these issues, and generally you and I are together only for about a half an hour twice a week, and we're trying not to be redundant. So it makes it a little difficult, especially since you broadcast at the same time I do. But I was noting today, about 23 minutes ago, this came across the Associated Press. The first GOP senator calls for a vote on Garland in the court nomination. That would be Senator Mark Kirk. You know what? I don't know what your feelings are, but I am just absolutely appalled that the Senate isn't going to do their job. You know what? Whether you like Obama or you don't like Obama, do you want to set a precedent where the president's powers end 10 months before he leaves office? I think this is wrong.
Well, that's purely, to me, subjective from a person's personal belief on how the system works. Mm-hmm. If you go back and read some of the writings of people like Alexander Hamilton and some of those people, they were not against not doing things within some kind of time frame set by somebody else. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that the Senate has to do something within a certain time frame when it comes to a Supreme Court nomination. I can guarantee you this, though, Bob. I mean, I understand the thinking behind it. It is as political as you get here.
Yeah.
This is political obstruction. But let's just turn the tables a little bit. Let's say that we are in the last term of Mitt Romney's presidency, mm-hmm. and this nomination was coming up. Do you think for 1 minute that the Democrats would be saying, yeah, we got to get this done and we got to get it done now? Or do you think they'd be doing the same thing?
No, I don't think so, John. But you know what? Well, I'm looking at who was actually proposed, and there's not a senator that can object to this guy based on what they've done in the past. He's more of a moderate, leaning to the right than he is the left side. And what scares me is are they waiting to take action between the time that the new president is elected? If it's not a Republican, are they going to go ahead and confirm this guy between November and December? Or are they waiting until the new president's elected and the new president then is going to put somebody in? We just don't, as a citizenry, we have no idea what the heck's going to happen. And will the new president, whoever it may be, nominate this same guy who seems to be equally acceptable to both sides?
Well, the question here, there's a difference between being appointed to the bench in the D.C. Circuit, which is by nature a very liberal bench anyway, and somebody that, I would beg to differ on this guy's background. One of the things we do know about him is that, yes, he is a moderate by definition, a moderate type of judge, and that in and of itself is what upsets me, that we are actually assigning political ideology to the judges, which shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Oh, I support your position with that 100%.
Okay, so the idea, well, are we going to get a more moderate, or are we going to get a less moderate, or whatever? The strategy behind this is not, Obama didn't make this appointment. See, this is what people are thinking. They completely miss. They're saying, okay, President Obama's out there telling, hey, I'm trying to do my job as a president. I'm trying to fill the bench. The Republicans don't want me to fill the bench because they don't like the fact that I'm half white. Okay, that is the argument. That's what's being presented out there. The problem is, or the reality of the situation is, Obama chose this guy for one particular reason, just what you said. He's got enough backing by enough Republicans who themselves are moderates to be able to use this to once again paint the Republicans as the obstructionist party and therefore solidify support behind Hillary Clinton. This all has to do with the election that's going on this year for the office of the presidency. Obama doesn't care one way or the other if he gets nominated. You read some of the people that are behind the scenes here that are talking about this, and they're saying we win either way. We either get this moderate guy out here, which, by the way, nobody really has any record of him in terms of his judgment on the main hot-button issues out here. He's never ruled on anything with same-sex marriage or abortion or anything else. He's anti-Second Amendment. That's been documented. See, so it's not. I think it's all in all proper for the Senate to sit there at this time and say, we're not going to do anything. Of course, my personal opinion is what the Senate should do is have the hearing and then vote him down.
That's what. Now, see, I disagree with your first premise that the Senate has the right to do nothing. I agree with your premise that, you know what, they need to give the man a hearing, and if they don't want to vote for him, don't vote for him. But I don't think sitting on their thumbs like this is any kind of a positive approach to how you run a government.
Well, it's not a matter of whether we think it's a positive approach or not. We're looking at it from a political expediency point of view. And that's what I'm looking at. My view is, I'd put a rope line out there and say, send them to me one at a time, and I'll just turn them down one at a time, and we'll just do this. We'll play the game by your rules, but we'll play the game to win.
But you know what? And I'm okay with that. But one of the problems, and you know that I'm very, very critical of the Congress, and I'm talking about the Senate and the House. Well, I'm critical of the government, as a matter of fact. But especially now, and I know you're aware that Snyder, the governor of Michigan, is before the House committee right now, or Senate committee, and it just boggles my mind how we can have these kinds of issues. 6,000 children have now succumbed to brain damage and physical injury because of this lead-tainted water that's put in there. These guys are all making excuses, and what does Congress do? They go on vacation. What on earth? Okay, so they don't pick a Supreme Court justice. So they don't fill any of the appointments that are going on. They don't even open up post office, for God's sakes. But are they going to now ignore the children of this nation? And Flint, Michigan is only one of many cities with this problem? I'm not getting this.
Well, see, you have just demonstrated to me the entire problem that we have in the electorate today. We have bought into the narrative that it's all about the children. See, the children are being used as human shields. There's nothing bad, or there's nothing good about this situation in Flint, Michigan. But let's exacerbate the problem more by bringing the federal government in so that it can get screwed up even more. This is a state issue. The federal government has no business getting involved in this at any level for any reason.
Well, I agree with you to this extent. I think that the state government, the state, should recall this, and I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but should recall this governor and all the people involved in there. And what the federal government should do at the very least is to get some financial support in there so they can fix these problems, even if the state winds up owing them the money after the fact.
Well, see, I don't believe that the federal government should be putting any more money in anything than they've already put money into.
Well, if the federal government's responsible for the security and safety of the citizens, how can you say that? I've heard you make that comment many times.
The federal government's not responsible for the safety of the citizens. It's responsible.
I thought you said that was the only reason that the federal government should exist, is to protect the safety and the security of this country.
No, it's to protect our borders. There's a big difference. Okay, so and protect our civil rights, but not protect us from the inadequacy, the ineptness, and the corruption of politicians within the states that we in those states have elected. See, that's where we want the federal government to play policeman. And it's not the federal government's jurisdiction to do that. That's why we have all the problems we have. That's why we have Loretta Lynch sitting down here right now trying to issue directives to states and municipalities and telling them who they can and cannot issue a traffic citation to based on their economic standing.
Then what do the people of Michigan do
Just what you said.
When they've got a state government that is not reacting to their needs.
They do just what you said they should do. They should recall that governor. Somebody should file charges against that governor. Should find out how this happened. Those people should be prosecuted. In the meantime, some of the money that's being funneled out into state programs that probably don't need that money can be redirected to do something to fix this thing.
And who's going to order the redirection of that money if your state government is not reacting to your needs?
Well, then, again, this is the responsibility of the state legislators elected by the people. The people got who they elected, and it's their responsibility to deal with it, not the federal government, who is just as corrupt, if not even more, than the people that are sitting out there in Flint, Michigan.
Well, unfortunately, I have to agree with you with that. And with that, we've got to take a short break, John. We'll be right back after these brief messages.
Okay, guys, we'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. Hey, we're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate. I hope you enjoyed that little short segment there with Bob Cardoso over at Robert Cardoso Live. We're going to hook right back up with him and see if he wants to continue this discussion. We're talking about the situation out there in Flint, Michigan, and I am of the position that the federal government needs to keep their nose out. Things are bad enough as it is. Let's put the federal government in there, and it'll just get multiplied.
We're back. John Matthews in the Conservative Syndicate. Hi, John.
All right. Hey, I am back and ready to go.
Good. You mean you got your guns loaded and we're ready for bear, right?
Yeah, loaded, ready for bear. I support the right to arm bears. Yes.
Yeah, me too. So, there's so many things going on that are just, I find disturbing. And moving off past Flint, because I think we've exhausted that. But I think that, I'm also absolutely flabbergasted by this attack on Trump. Now, here's the thing. Easy for me to say that because the truth is that I actually support Trump right now, and I don't like Cruz because I think he's just a pathologic liar. But on the other hand, I certainly don't want Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders up there. The thing that bothers me is this. We have this system, and here's a guy that's going to wind up with a majority of delegates, if maybe not the magic number, but certainly really close to it. And even if he gets that magic number, the GOP is saying that they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that he doesn't get what he earned. I'm not understanding this. They're even at a point where they want to put Paul Ryan in there. They want to put Mitt Romney in there. They want to put anybody in there. Guys that haven't even been running. It drives me absolutely up a wall.
Well, let me see if I can ease your conscience a little bit. We've spent the entire week looking at this. I'll tell you, I had a massive revelation here last week watching the Kelly Files, something I don't normally do, but I've been watching her a lot lately because she has had forums with the candidates one-on-one rather than in a debate scenario. So I thought, that's a good way to do this thing. So I've been watching her show, and she played this 3.5-minute segment from a show called The Circus, which is on Showtime. And this is Mark McKinnon out there actually just following the primaries and just taping whatever he sees and just putting it out here for people to see. And he had a dinner with 5 or 6 of these very established political Republican operatives, people behind the scenes. If I gave you their names, you wouldn't even know who they were. But these are the big money pushers. These are the fundraisers. These are the strategists, the people that are out there playing the game behind the scenes. And the basic idea is, or the basic thing that came out of this 3.5-minute segment was this. The establishment is not the politicians. The establishment are the people behind the politicians putting the money out there to get the politicians to do what they want. Now, we know that, but to really see that in such clarity coming from the mouths of these men and basically admitting they have no clue how Trump has gotten where he's at and why he's been able to remain at the top of the heap, because everything they've done and everything they represent is completely counter to who Trump is. And in one of the questions asked by the guy interviewing him was, well, what are you doing to stop Trump? And the answer was, we're working on it. Well, okay, this is what they admit, one, that Trump knows more about the culture than they do. They admit that he is an inarticulate, rude person. And one guy says all he's got going for him are votes. Like, I thought that's all you need. That's all Barack Obama needed was votes, right? Yeah. So here's my point. As you get to understanding who these establishment types are, you understand that the Republican Party is already dead. It's already dead. It's on life support. And the only thing these establishment people fear now is that if the Republican Party loses control to somebody like Trump, they lose control. They literally lose control. Then the party is not worth salvaging because it no longer serves their purpose. And so that's why they're floating these things like broker conventions. This is last-minute Hail Mary desperation stuff. I'm reading an article today that what they're talking about doing, this is the establishment talking about doing, is putting a third-party candidate out there, taking somebody like John Kasich, putting him on a third-party ticket in hopes of keeping either Trump and or Hillary from getting 270 electoral votes. At that point, the rules state that the Speaker of the House has to pick the president. So, see, they're out there trying all these different tactics because the RNC is now talking about throwing all the rules out at the convention. Literally.
Well, you know what? And I didn't see that before, and I understand exactly what you're saying, but that just even makes me more incensed than I was before, because you know what? When you said that this is what the establishment wants, the establishment doesn't represent the people, and the people are voting for who they want to have, and they're thumbing their noses up at the people, and it just drives me absolutely nuts. And you're right, the establishment doesn't want Trump, because Trump doesn't want what the establishment wants. These guys are going to lose power, they're going to lose money, and maybe, just maybe, if we get somebody, even if I can't believe I'm going to say this, maybe a Sanders or a Trump would be strong enough to get this damn country back on track again.
Well, here's my thought on this. You've hit the nail on the head here. I'm at the point in my mind where I'm saying, okay, given what I know now and what I've been able to discover in my research on these people and what the party's doing and why they're doing it, I'm all for burning it to the ground. Let's just burn it to the ground, and let's hope that we can rise something out of the ashes. To just support what you were saying, Curly Hoagland, who is an unbound GOP delegate from North Dakota, he is one of the 112 people that make up the rules committee that is going to determine what happens at this convention. And he comes out and he says the biggest lie out there is that the American people pick the candidates. We, the delegates, pick the candidates, and they don't understand that. He says the media has created the perception that the voters choose the nomination. That's not true. He says we do it. We, the delegates, do it. And who are the delegates? Representatives of the establishment who are there to protect the interest of the people that are putting the money out there to play. Donald Trump is a threat to the establishment because he is not only a politician, contrary to what people think. He is a politician. He's been playing the game forever. He admits it. He has said, I buy these people. I pay them money. They do what I want. Yeah. And so that is a politician. But he's also a player because he is part of the establishment, because he has been playing the game for as long as he can remember. What he is, though, that is different, the analogy I use is he's Virgil Solalo going after Vito Corleone. He's a member of the syndicate who has decided to do something different. And he goes to Vito Corleone. He says, I want your blessing. This is what I want to do. Corleone says, no, I'm sorry. That will not help my business at all. But good luck. Do what you want to do. And what happens? The guy turns around and tries to assassinate Vito Corleone. Donald Trump is Virgil Solazzo. He is coming to the table now saying, I've done everything I need to do. I'm a billionaire 10 times over. I can do whatever I want to do. Hey, let's see if we can clean something up. Now, whether Trump's going to do anything or not, the way he says he's going to do it, that remains to be seen. But what he will do, and what would happen if Sanders got elected, same thing would happen. The GOP and the DNC establishment elites would be exposed for who they are. They will no longer be able to hide behind the shadows, because now the people that they have hired would have to do something to either cooperate or oppose, and that exposes the whole game.
Well, Bill Bennett wrote an article, I think I sent it to you, that says that if Donald Trump got elected, he'd never see the inside of the Oval Office. He'd be assassinated.
I don't put anything out of the realm of possibility these days, any more than I would put out the possibility that if somehow Bernie Sanders was able to pull this thing off, that he would die of a heart attack before he got there, like Andrew Breitbart or somebody like that.
Yeah.
These guys, what people really need to understand, and that's why I like what Trump has done. I don't like Trump, but I like what he has done, is that he has completely exposed this. And he has not only done that, he has incited a very large part of the electorate to either get out and vote, change parties to vote, or vote in elections because they haven't voted for many elections. So he has ignited something. And if that continues, this trend, the Republican Party will destroy itself to protect their interest in their bank accounts.
Boy, you got that right. Hey, John, we're out of time. Why don't you go ahead and give out your contact information?
Yeah, you can catch us at the conservativesyndicate.net. We stream every Monday through Friday out here 3 o'clock on the West Coast, 6 on the East. And just if you catch us at our website, you can listen to us live if we're on. If not, you can catch the latest show, whichever one is there. It starts playing as soon as you get on the site. Just go to the conservativesyndicate.net. I hope you have a good weekend, Bob.
Hey, John, you have a great weekend, too. Stay safe, stay happy. Keep everybody around you happy because they know you. Have a good weekend, buddy.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. Okay. All right, guys, it's time now for the Edwards Notebook. We're coming up at the top of the hour here. Pay some bills, and then we will be back to continue the Angry White Man rant. I'm all jacked up now on Mountain Dew. And we'll talk more after the break here. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
For a man who hasn't paid his taxes, Al Windbag Sharpton sure makes a lot of stupid noise. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, most people who owe at least $5 million in back taxes try to keep a low profile. But thanks to his buddies in government, including the White House occupier, Al Windbag Sharpton is emboldened to loudly spout off some of the dumbest comments in American history. The Reverend Al Sharpton equates the intelligent idea of Congress leaving the decision to vote yea or nay on President Obama's possible choice for the Supreme Court for the next administration with profiling of Obama. Sharpton explained that he sees the racial angle to the debate over the late Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia's replacement. What the Reverend Al Sharpton fails to acknowledge is that President Obama has not made one single significant decision that benefits the United States. In fact, the Obama presidency has so damaged America's reputation around the world that our one-time allies no longer view our republic as a leader, powerful or dependable. Yet, our enemies like Iran can depend on this administration bending over to please them. The good news is Reverend Al Sharpton said that he will leave the U.S. if Donald Trump is elected president. Oh, and he can take the suddenly outspoken Mitt Romney with him. Bye now. I'm Ron Edwards.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet.
Vying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
Hey, and we're back, and this is hour two of the Conservative Syndicate, and we're glad you took the time to join us. I hope you enjoyed that segment with Robert Cardoso over at Robert Cardoso Live. Bob and I are very good friends. We met years ago in a studio. We were both doing broadcasts, I guess it was back in 2010, and he was doing a terrestrial show out at KCAA, and his was called On the Street. And I was doing my show at that time. I believe it was called That Radio Show. I changed the name a couple years ago when I started bringing on contributors to the Conservative Syndicate. And we hit it off right away. And I had him on my show. And Bob's ideological views are a lot more moderate than mine. He's very much a moderate. He's more of a fiscal conservative and has some social liberal leanings in terms of social issues. But we have that type of friendship where we can differ in our opinions and not, want to crucify each other, kill each other. We go out to dinner sometimes together. We visited over and visit his wife, or he's come over here with his wife, and so we're very socially connected with each other. But I love doing the show because he does present a side of a dialogue that a lot of times doesn't really get vocalized. We see it out there in social media, but he does have the ability to articulate. And like I said, I always like people that I can articulate with, whether I agree with them or not. That's the thing here. For those of you out there in the Shake and Wake Radio chat room, if you want to contact me on Skype, you need to send me a contact request, and send it to Right and Wrong Radio. Once I get that contact and I approve it, then we'll be able to get you in here. The number Annie's giving you out there, 562-219-2202, is my Skype phone number. So if you're not using Skype and you want to call in, you can call that number and you'll come in on Skype. So either way, if you want to call into the show, that's how you go about doing it. I wanted to comment early during the segment with Bob, since we're in our short segment here. Somebody had made a comment out there in the chat room about we're screwed. They just said, we're screwed. And I was asked what I thought about that. I would say this. We've been getting screwed for quite a while. And the thing is, we're just now waking up to it seems. It's kind of like we've been screwed while we've been sleeping. And all of a sudden you wake up and find this dark intruder laying on top of you, or whatever position you're getting screwed in, if you get my drift. But what has to happen here is that we need to stop the screwing. We have the opportunity. There's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of things going on out here. My personal view on this whole situation is right now, this election is going to determine one of two things. It's going to determine whether God has heard the cries of his people, and he has, in the process of correcting course for us through the elected leaders. See, a lot of people say, well, God puts people in power. God does put people in power based on the attitude and the moral standing of the people that are under that power. God just doesn't pick somebody. He didn't pick Barack Obama and say, hey, let me see if I can screw people's lives up down there. He picked Barack Obama, or he allowed Barack Obama into power because the morality of this nation has deteriorated to such a degree that God says, okay, think of the analogy of King Saul. I often use this when I'm talking with people. King Saul was the result of the people of Israel going to Samuel the prophet and saying, we no longer want the prophets telling us what to do. We want a king to fight our battles for us. And so God told Samuel, I'm going to send him a king. But tell him this is what the king is going to do. The king is going to take their money. He's going to oppress their people. They're going to end up working for the state, and they're going to get very little out of it. And that's what happened. See, it was their attitude. When Samuel said, well, Lord, why are you doing this? He said, they're not rebelling against you. They're rebelling against me. Barack Obama is a result of too many people in this country rebelling against God, wanting to do it their own way. And God says, okay, I'll give you the king. I'll give you the guy you want. I'll give you the guy that's going to promise you everything on a silver platter as long as you keep him or her in power. And this is what we've come up with. So we're at a point right now, one of two things are going on. God has heard the cries of his people, as stated in Chronicles, and he is in the process of healing our land. And it may not look like it right now because of everything that's going on, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening. Or God has decided the moral nature or status of the nation is such that judgment must come in order to save the people. So it's one of two things happening. We're in the process of reconciling back to God, which I hope is the case. What I see, what I speculate on with a number of people that are now talking about supporting a candidate, whether you like the guy or not. At least it's a step in the right direction that people are paying attention and willing to get off their couches and go vote. That is a step in the right direction. Whether the choice is still good, I don't know. Or we're being brought under judgment. The prophets always warned of judgment, always came before the people and said, if you do not stop, this is what's going to happen. Here I am, John Matthews, mad prophet, telling you if we do not stop, we are going to be judged. And there are others out there like me saying the same thing, carrying the same message. Okay? So that's how I feel about whether or not we're being screwed or not. It's not a matter of whether we're being screwed or if we are screwed. It's a matter of, are we going to stop the screwing we've been getting? There's the question. Because if God lowers his hand and says, okay, you people are going to now get what you deserve, you're going to reap what it is you've sown, I don't think it matters who is going to be president because we're in for it, okay? So that's my position on this right now, if that's really what you want to know. You ask the question. As they say, don't ask the question if you don't like the answer. It's our short segment here. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get back into our discussion here, trying to bring the sum totals of the parts together to give you the big picture as to what exactly is going on out there right now. And because there is, just like everything else, there is a method to the madness if you can take the time to watch and listen and discern rather than judge. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
And welcome back. And you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews. As I said, the mad prophet of the airways, and on a mission from God, and that mission is to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. If we don't do that, we are not going to be able to turn this country around. We have to get back to the place where God becomes the center of all things, and He alone, the one who endowed us with unalienable rights, must be put in His proper place over all. And everything that we do as subjects in His kingdom, or servants in His kingdom, actually not subjects. Subjects give the inference that you're there under not under your own will. But as servants, our job is to make sure that we, the people, elect the people that will uphold what we are supposed to be about. That's where the breakdown has been. When we analyze this thing, the 8 years I've been on the radio and analyze this thing time and time again, it always comes back to one thing. We, the people, have dropped the ball. As I've said many times, Barack Obama is not the problem here. Donald Trump is not the problem. Hillary Clinton is not the problem. Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, these people are not the problem. The problem is that we, the people, have put these people in office, and we continue to buy into their lies, and they're really being ruled and controlled by the people behind the scenes with all the money. Now, I am not a person who would deny anybody the access of wealth, and some of these people have money that I can't even fathom what it looks like. What it would look like sitting in a room with $1 billion. I have no idea. I have no idea what it would look like, or what it would feel like to hold $100,000 in my hand. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me that way. I don't look at things that way. But that is what we have to look at. We, the people, have done this. We, the people, have allowed our own morality to lapse. And in doing so, we have allowed God to be replaced with humanism. And humanism in government turns into tyranny. And so what's happened is our lack of morality, our relegation of God from overall to wherever He fits on our mantelpiece, whatever little statue you've got out there, whatever bumper sticker you put on your car, or whatever, and that's how you identify yourself as one of God's people. But you've allowed your morality to lapse in such a way that collectively we have opened and created this massive vacuum by which the enemy, Satan, and all of his counterparts, the principalities out there, can come in and influence us to turn away, continue our rebellion against God, and the devil has only one objective, and that is to destroy us. The thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and that's what's happened out there. And so we have to be the ones to recognize it. People pray to God. I hear this all the time from Christians. I can't even count the number of Christians I've heard. We need to pray to God. We need to pray to God. We need to pray. We need to pray. And I always ask the same question. If you're praying, what is God telling you? See, you don't just pray to God and expect Him to wave His hand and go, okay, yeah, I've heard your prayer. Let's clean this thing up. I'll clean it up for you. No. We pray, God answers and tells us what we're supposed to do to turn this thing around. And if we're doing what He tells us, then we have the power to make it happen. He empowers through obedience. You have no authority unless you're obedient. You have no power unless you have authority. So obedience, authority, and all work together. How do I want to say that? Authority and obedience. Obedience is the key to authority and power. There we go. That's how it's supposed to come out. And unless we are under the authority of the one who has set the terms and conditions out there, we are throwing our prayers up against the ceiling. It's not going anywhere. Not going anywhere because we're not doing it with the heart, the humble heart that God says His people must have. If they humble themselves and cease from what they're doing, then I will come and heal their land. But He's not going to wave His hand. He's going to send us somebody that we would recognize as the person or persons that would help us take control, take this republic back, and place it once again under the sovereign hand of the one who created us, and we would be back on the right course. That's what this election is going to do, one way or the other. One way or the other. Whether Trump wins, whether Cruz wins, whether Hillary wins, whether somebody who's yet to be announced yet wins. It doesn't matter who's in office. It matters what the people are doing before their God. That's what is the answer to all this. And I didn't mean to get on the pulpit there, but it's so clear to me. It's clear as day that this is what we need to be worried about. This is what we need. This is what that we need to be looking at. So, anyway, now back to this little narrative that I've been kind of carrying off all week. Let's look back here. I had mentioned when we were on Bob's show, Robert Cardoso Live here in the last hour, that Obama, I shared with you an article of Obama at a fundraiser in Austin, Texas, $33,400 to attend this thing. And, I don't know how many people were there, but I can guarantee you it was enough that made it worth his time to get on Air Force One at our expense and fly down there to talk to these people, to appease them and reassure them that even though Hillary Clinton doesn't look like she's authentic, meaning pleasurable or likable or personable, that she would continue to carry out his administration's agenda. The advancements that Obama has made towards the fundamental transformation of the United States of America. Hillary would be the one to do it. Sanders would put it into overdrive and destroy it. So Sanders is not the guy. Now, Obama's tried to retain this kind of neutral position. Well, I'm not really saying one way or the other. Wasserman Schultz, the head of the DNC, we want everybody to participate in the process. Of course, they have super delegates to make sure that people like Bernie Sanders never rise to the top. If you look at the breakdown in delegates right now, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, there's a couple hundred delegates through the caucuses and primaries that separate them. But she's got about 1,000 super delegates that nobody even talks about. She's at 1,600 right now. Bernie Sanders is somewhere around 500 or something like that. Some astronomically low number. She'll get the nomination unless she gets indicted. See, there's the wrench in the works there. We don't know what's going to go. Wouldn't it be something that wouldn't it be just like God to have this happen? Hillary Clinton wins the nomination, and within a week after the nomination, she gets indicted by the FBI. Boy, now there would be the hand of God, because when have the Clintons ever been found guilty of anything? It would take an act of God, for crying out loud, to get them indicted and in front of a court or found guilty of anything. People have died that are associated with these people, and they've walked away from it untouched. That's the hand of the devil. And the power from the devil is from where? It is from the immorality of the people. See, we are powerless. The church is right now powerless because we're not doing the right things the right way for the right reasons. So we're more worried about church business than we are about kingdom business. And I see signs that that's turning around. But wouldn't it also be the hand of God to do something like have the godless turn out to be the majority of people that vote to put somebody like Ted Cruz or Donald Trump in office? Just set aside the arguments right now as to who the best candidate is or if any of them are any good. If everybody, the big fear of everybody who is not a Clinton supporter is that Hillary Clinton will win. People that like Bernie Sanders don't want Hillary Clinton. People that want Trump, Cruz, Rubio, Kasich, or any of them don't want Hillary to win. But wouldn't it just be the hand of God to put somebody like Ted Cruz in office by the votes of the atheists? Wouldn't that be? I mean, there is some divine intervention for you if we can just play around with some speculation a little bit. But there's another aspect of this. The point I was getting at with Obama is this. Let me finish up this point, and then I can move on. Is that Obama was standing before the real establishment. The real establishment. He wasn't standing in front of senators and Congress people telling them that Hillary Clinton is going to be the one to carry on his administration's policies. He was standing before the people with the bucks, the people who have come in and said, this is what we want. because this is how we profit off of these things. We profit off of Planned Parenthood. So we want abortions. We profit off of homosexual marriages. So we want homosexual marriages. We profit off of renewable energy. So we want the fossil industry destroyed. See, that's on the left. On the right, you've got the people saying, we don't want the oil industry touched. We don't want any of these things to go on. Planned Parenthood, we really don't care about that because it's not, that's not going to drive our agenda one way or the other. They'll say, oh, we're against Planned Parenthood, but then turn around and vote to fund it. See, that's the establishment background. They're telling their politicians, those senators and congressmen out there, they're basically saying, yeah, it's a social issue and it's an important issue to the people, but that's not going to affect our business one way or the other. Unless, of course, you're in the healthcare industry. Well, you can make a lot of money off of abortions. Well, what is it, Planned Parenthood? They only perform 3% of the abortions in the country, but that turns out to be almost 1 million abortions a year, and it is their largest money-making faction of what they do. Imagine that other 97% out there. Where's that money going? It's in the healthcare industry, the prescription industry, all these things. So Obamacare, yeah, we don't like it, but it doesn't really make any difference as long as the taxpayers are footing the bill and we're still cutting a profit. People like Jeb Bush making $30 million as a board member of Health Tenet in Florida, one of the big supporters of Obamacare. Education, yeah, the education should really be at a local level. But then you have Jeb Bush's brother out there, Neil Bush, making millions of dollars as he conspires with Bill Gates at Microsoft to write curriculum for Common Core tests to be taken online at $35 a pop. And the courses are designed that the students have to take the test 3 or 4 times to pass because nobody can understand what Common Core is teaching in the first place. So, yeah, we'll stand up and say, yeah, we really need to do something about education. We really need to put it back in the hands of the people. When in actuality, they could care less because the money is going to be made at the corporate level out of the foresight of anybody else. Okay? So, I'm just revealing to you what all this means, what it all means in terms of the establishment. Now, let's get more into some of the strategies here that are happening. When people ask me, what are you afraid of? I'll tell you what I'm afraid of right now, more than anything. I'm afraid that this narrative that is once again resurfaced, trying to paint Donald Trump as some kind of racist, bigoted hater. He may be in his own closet. He might be a closet racist. He might be somebody who thinks that, yeah, illegal immigrants are people that I can use to make money off of, which, by the way, is an establishment trait. It is an establishment trait. Why do you think the establishment doesn't want immigration reform? Because they make a lot of money off the cheap labor. That is not a lie. See, the left tells us the truth. The problem is their motivation for telling us the truth is so that we'll throw our support behind them so that they can do the same thing. See, it's what I call that creative destruction. That's what we have to pay attention to. Two sides of the same coin, wanting the same thing, just a different way of getting it. And so that when we talk about this stuff, so I'm really concerned at this point about the movement on the left to resurrect the Weather Underground, the Black Panther Party, and things like that under new names. Black Lives Matter, MoveOn.org. These are all the same organizations back in the 60s and the 70s. Bill Ayers, the whole 9 yards. Black Panthers out there, the Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons. You haven't seen them around much lately, but believe me, they're sitting there plotting their course because racism is a good money-making business. They're just figuring out their angle. They'll be back. Believe me, they'll be back. So I want to talk about this racial aspect of this because this is what I fear. This has been my fear when I talk about what's going on in the political arena. is that we end up in some type of civil war before this thing is over. And if that happens, who knows what direction this country's going to go and if we'd ever recover from it. We almost didn't from the last civil war that we had. And we'll wonder, it's just, we can only speculate what's going to happen. But I want to do that when we get back. Right now, we're at the bottom of the hour here. Right now, folks, it is time for Moments of Madness. If you think we've been having madness all this show, you'll like this little segment, Moments of Madness. We'll be right back. Today on Moments of Madness. The recent violence that has begun to appear across the country at Donald Trump rallies underscores the truth embedded in the old adage, those who failed to learn from history are too often the idiots that blindly repeat it. Beginning with the removal of Black Lives Matter activists in Georgia, who may have, in all fairness, just wanted to stand silently in protest during Trump's speech, to the sucker punching of a protester being removed for disrupting Trump's speech in North Carolina by a Willie Nelson-looking cowboy, to the 37 arrests for assault, including a very bloody protester in St. Louis, to the nearly riotous outburst in Chicago that led to the hospitalization of several attendees, among them a MoveOn.org organizer. These series of incidences resurrect for those of us older to remember the 1968 Democratic National Convention. The 68 Democratic Convention was a brokered convention brought about by Lyndon Johnson declining to run for re-election, along with the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy within a month of each other. Kennedy was running a close second to then Vice President Hubert Humphrey, who had garnered establishment delegates outside traditional primary protocol. Humphrey was the establishment choice. Kennedy, an anti-Vietnam supporter, the people's savior. Also present at the 68 convention was the anti-establishment movement Youth International Party, known as YIPPY, led by Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin, and the National Mobilization Committee to End the War in Vietnam, called MOBI, led by David Dellinger. Over the course of 4 days, violence routinely erupted on the streets of Chicago, resulting in 589 arrests, 119 and 100 injuries to police and protesters, respectively, and the death of a 17-year-old stopped for a curfew violation who pulled a weapon and fired upon officers. Here's the madness. Parallels between the 68 convention and what we see playing out today are more than eerie. For instance, there was once again the prospect of a DNC brokered convention, this time to ensure an establishment nominee wins with superdelegates should the current frontrunner with more than a shady past be indicted. Her opponent is a popular socialist lauded by the college crowd who feels the burn. Just as chilling is the even more serious prospect of a GOP brokered convention to stop a populist who refuses to play by establishment rules and in doing so has captured demographics establishment candidates can only dream of. Following the 68 convention, another radical group formed at Ann Arbor, Michigan by Students for a Democratic Society called SDS. Founded by a radicalized Bill Ayers, the Weather Underground capitalized on the anti-Vietnam movement and the rise of the Black Panthers. The Weathermen, as they came to be called, participated in bombings of police stations and government installations like the Pentagon, along with riots that coincided with the trial of the Chicago 7, those who had been arrested on conspiracy charges the year before during the 68 Democratic Convention. Today, college campuses across the country have their own underground, Black Lives Matter, many of them who are being trained by MoveOn.org, who we now see showing up in larger and larger number at Trump rallies. The only impartiality they display is the fact they squeeze in an occasional Clinton event on their quest to whine and moan about their identity dilemma. And who do these self-proclaimed disenfranchised college youths look for inspiration? None other than Bernie Sanders, self-avowed democratic socialist who spews forth his own revolutionary rhetoric of government overthrow through redistribution economics. Yes, the parallels are as uncanny as they are eerie. Even more frightening, though, is the prospect this time around. While everyone acknowledges the inmates are running the asylum, no one in charge seems to care enough to put any of them back in their straitjackets. My guess is they just want to watch history repeat itself. Unfortunately, there are enough idiots running the streets to make it so. This is John Matthews for Moments of Madness.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. And we're back. And you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. And hey, I did want to just take a moment here and give an update here on my co-host, Joe Hakos, who has been out big time. I guess he's been over a month now. He's been out, and they couldn't find out what was the problem here, but he was having some really bad problems, virtually incapacitated with pain. They found and located an abscess cyst on his spine, and he is now undergoing antibiotic infusions to relieve this cyst and reduce or eliminate the pain. And I talked to him the other day. He's feeling much better. He is moving around a little bit, but he's going to be out for quite a bit longer here. They're saying these infusions are going to be, he has to go every single day for about the next 6 weeks. So whatever it is, it was a pretty big cyst out there. But Joe's a trooper. Talked to him the other night. He misses being here. Actually, every now and then we'll listen to the show when he can. So our best wishes out there, Joe and his family, and speedy recovery. And when I can guarantee you, by the time he gets back, he's going to be loaded for bear. I know Joe. So anyway, that's our update on Joe. Now, listen. Let me start out this segment here by talking about something that a lot of people are talking about, but in very general terms. Nobody's actually been able to put numbers on it yet or anything else. And I caught an interview with Ted Cruz last night, and they were talking, of course, the big conversation out there right now. It's all about whether we're going to have a contested convention in July or a brokered convention. And I explained earlier in the week what the difference between the two. A contested convention is simply the candidates come to the convention and they say, the race is too close. None of us have the majority. The race is too close. And so we want to make a pitch to maybe get some of the other delegates. I informed everybody here. All the candidates that have left the race, all of them, I think they start out with 17, all of them, any of them that had delegates, actually took delegates by when they were in the race and are now gone. And we'll talk about Marco Rubio because he has the largest number of delegates, and he suspended his campaign. Well, people think, well, once the candidate suspends his campaign, then those delegates go someplace else, and they don't. In a suspended campaign, the delegates remain with the candidate. So Marco Rubio still has 164 candidates. For instance, Ben Carson still has 8 delegates. He suspended his campaign. He didn't just walk away. Rand Paul, I think, has a couple. Carly Fiorina has 1 delegate. She suspended her campaign. So those delegates are still out there. So here's the deal. You go to an open convention or a contested convention, and what you do is you try to sway those delegates that belong to somebody to go to somebody else. Somebody goes to Marco Rubio and says, you give me those 164 delegates, and I'll put you on the ticket, or I'll give you an appointment in my administration, or I'll buy you lunch, or whatever it is, whatever deal you can make. And then the person will terminate their campaign. A brokered convention is when the rules committee says by the rules nobody has won enough of the majority the way the rules are set out. And then we've explained to you what that means. Rule number 40 in the RNC rulebook, Section B, Rule number 40, Section B says the candidate must win 50% plus 1 in at least 8 states to be able to lay claim to any of the delegates that they've amassed. The only candidate that has done that to date is Donald Trump. He has 8, maybe 9. I think he might have 9 with Mariana Islands. He got all 9 delegates. So he has 9 states where he won 50% or more of the delegates that were available. Ted Cruz, I believe, has 2. Kasich has 1 because he won Ohio, which was a winner-take-all. The rest of them don't have any. They haven't won 50% plus 1 in any state. So those delegates are just sitting out there in limbo. So between Rubio and all the other candidates that have pulled out of the race by suspending the race, you're probably looking at maybe close to 180, 190 delegates. That could be a big number in a contested convention where you come in with Cruz and Trump maybe within 50 or 60 of each other, or 100 within each other, and maybe neither one of them quite has the actual number that they need, the 1,273 that they need to be able to have their name submitted as the nominee. Well, Cruz was talking last night because a lot of people think, well, Trump is right now about 270 ahead of Ted Cruz. He has 671 delegates. Ted Cruz has 401. So they're sitting out there saying, well, if Cruz begins to steamroll in the remaining primaries here, it doesn't look like Ted Cruz is going to win enough or could win enough to catch Trump. And so what the brokered convention concept is that we get up to, Donald Trump gets up to maybe 1,100 delegates. Cruz maybe ends up with 800 or 900 or whatever. They don't have enough to really outright claim it by the 1,273 majority. So what happens is it goes to a brokered convention. And the Rules Committee determines that's what we're going to do. Nobody has won. Nobody has hit the majority. Trump has done he has reached that one threshold that was created to keep a grassroots candidate out, and that is 50% plus 1 in 8 states or more. Trump has surpassed that. So the Rules Committee gets together, and as I was talking about earlier, if we listened to Bob Cardoso's segment, the Rules Committee is talking about just tossing out all the rules and going to Robert's point of order for their convention. If they do that, Robert's point of order is simply this: what? We make a motion, somebody seconds the motion, and we vote. And if we don't get that, well, then we do it again. And so what you're talking about basically is a brokered convention. If they throw out all the rules and say we're not going to apply any rules, because, they can't at this point change. They couldn't go into a room, let's say Trump comes in with 1,200. He's 73 short. And he has won 8 or 9 or 10 of these states he has amassed 50% plus 1 of the delegates. So they come in and they say, well, we're going to change rule number 40. You have to have 15 now. You have to have 15 states. Trump doesn't meet that, so he doesn't get the nomination. That's where you would have your uprising. That's where you're going to have, as Trump would say, the riots. And this feeds into the narrative. I'm not saying that the establishment wouldn't do this, because I think they're at this point where they'll do anything to protect their own interests. The Republican Party can explode tomorrow, and these people will still be rich. Okay? The only thing you've done is you've blocked or you've hindered their way of making money through the tampering with regulations and rules and tax laws and everything else to keep as much of their money as they can, which any capitalist would do. But that's not the point. The point is, if the establishment decides it's not worth salvaging the Republican Party and the expense that it's going to cost us is worth taking, we'll write it off as a loss or whatever, that could happen. What I'm concerned about is if that takes place, it's what happens within the electorate itself. Again, something that the establishment doesn't seem to care one way or the other about. We'll talk about that when we get back. Right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. And we're back. And you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate. My George Bushism just kicked in there for a moment here. The Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. And I am your host, John Matthews, and I want to kind of tie the ends together here with the time that I have left. Try to put everything back into the big picture for you, our listening audience, because that's what we try to do here on the show. We try to educate, inform, and engage you, our listening audience, as to the lameness of the leftist agenda. Now, I want to say this. Excuse me. My biggest fear here has been, for quite a while now, actually, and I think we're on the verge of seeing a resurrection of the type of disturbances that we saw during the 60s and the 70s. The 1968 Democratic Convention in particular, where a lot of elements in society came to a head, all met in the same place at the same time for all the wrong reasons. You'll remember that the 1968, if you do remember, if you were around then, and if you were taught history, which I doubt, anybody under 25 years old probably wasn't taught any of this, but at the 1968 convention, it was a brokered convention. And that's why I've been talking so much about having a brokered convention on the GOP side. We might have another brokered convention on the DNC side if Hillary is indicted, because that would just basically put the Democrats in a position where they couldn't deny it. It doesn't matter if she's being indicted. Vote for her anyway. I mean, you can only go so far with that. It would be there's no longer the insinuation. There's no longer the accusations. There's no longer allegations. You are being charged with something. that has ramifications. Now, here is the deal. And in the 1968 convention, we had the anti-Vietnam movement. Today, we have the anti-Middle East movement. A lot of people don't want to be involved in the Middle East. I'm one of these people. I don't think we should be involved in the Middle East. Of course, we have to be now because of ISIS. But had we not gotten involved back in Desert Storm, I don't know that we'd find ourselves where we are today. Now, you can argue that all you want as to how and why we ended up there. I think it was a big mistake, personally. That's the only thing I've ever agreed with Barack Obama about, is that we never should have gone into the Iraq War. Never should have been a Desert Storm. And because of that, what has happened is we have found ourselves fighting a political war, much less a lot less than a military action. And none of it is really in our national interest, except now that we have terrorism that wants to destroy us. But I don't know that if all those circumstances in Iraq and all the situation in Libya, which Hillary Clinton helped perpetuate under the Obama administration, that we'd have ISIS today. I don't know. We might not. I don't know. It's it's speculation. But we have a situation where we're in a war that one administration doesn't want to call a war, but everybody recognizes as a war, and nobody likes it. Same as Vietnam. We have a candidate on the left that may be facing indictment. In the 1968 convention, Hubert Humphrey was the establishment choice. He was the vice president of Lyndon Johnson. Johnson had refused to run for another term, so it was all assumed that Hubert Humphrey would be the guy that would pick up the mantle. But along comes a guy named Robert Kennedy, who is anti-Vietnam, and he gathers a following, much like Donald Trump. And people started following him, and the anti-establishment movement grabbed a hold of him, and all the college crowd. Bill Ayers formed the Weather Underground. Abby Hoffman, Jerry Rubin had the Yippie movement. There was another movement out there by, what's his name? I can't remember his name. The anti-Vietnam War movement. And all these people converged on Chicago at the same time. 4 or 5 days of riots, 600 arrests, almost 300 injuries to civilians and police officers. One kid was killed because he violated curfew and pulled a gun on police officers when they pulled him over. And that's what I see happening. This is my fear right now. This is what I see taking place. The structuring of another type of confrontation like this. Because the people that were behind the 1968 convention was the establishment, and it was the disgruntled, disenfranchised radicals. A lot of them were college kids. We have today, the college kids are the ones driving the Bernie Sanders movement. The college kids are the ones driving the Black Lives Matter. MoveOn.org. Barack Obama has been pandering to the college crowd since he came into office as a senator in Chicago, much less when he entered into the U.S. Senate and then as president. They know, these people know, these radicals know, these Alinskyites know that it is the college is where you conduct your recruiting and your training and your mentoring so that when they become a viable voting bloc, something can occur. And if they don't get the results they like, we're hearing things now. People out there threatening. If Trump wins the nomination, there's going to be riots. That's what we're hearing. Black Lives Matter being organized by MoveOn.org, which, by the way, was one of the key organizers behind Barack Obama's 2008 run for president, and in 2012. Organizing for America used to be Barack Obama, whatever, okay? But now it's called Organizing for America. MoveOn.org was an arm of that. And it's now organizing and mentoring and funding. They're actually, believe this or not, they're actually fundraising for Black Lives Matter to be able to send protesters en masse to rallies like in Chicago with Donald Trump so that they can disrupt and bring violence to the forefront, just like the Weather Underground did with Bill Ayers. When the Chicago 7, the 7 people that were indicted in 1968 for inciting riots, See, now what are they trying to do? They're trying to charge Trump with inciting a riot. Now, Trump, as I've said before, I have to keep prefacing these remarks. I'm not a Trump supporter. But I do not think it fair, and I do not think it American, to go to such extremes to obstruct and hinder and basically destroy the will of the people for the sake of the establishment who needs to preserve all their power and money that they've amassed. And they now feel threatened by the presence of Donald Trump, who, like I said, is one of them. To make no mistake about it, Donald Trump is as establishment as you get. 30, 40 years in a business where he has bought off politicians to get to where he's at. And he knows the game as good as any of them. And he knows how he can use that game to leverage to get something that at this point apparently he has some kind of ideological clarity, some moment of clarity where he claims, hey, you know what? America's been good to me. Maybe I can give something back. That kind of thing. So that remains to be seen. But anyway, my big thing here, and what I want to leave you with this thought here today, is that if things go down the path that they continue to go, what we may see is that not only a very volatile election, but a very violent one. That is my fear. Because innocent people are going to get sucked into this. The people that are actually participating in it, whatever happens to you, you deserve. But there's going to be innocent people drawn into this. Not to mention a generation of people who think they know everything and don't know squat about what's happening. And will live to regret their participation in an event that just might bring about the downfall of the greatest nation ever to exist under the one sovereign God. So anyway, folks, we're done for the week. We will be back on Monday, 3 o'clock out here on the West Coast and 6 o'clock on the East Coast. Want to once again encourage everybody to visit our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and you can find out anything you want to know about this show, theconservativesyndicate.net, anything about our contributors. They'll be on next week. I think next week we have Ron Edwards and, of course, Bob Cardosa. Just like I said, continue to pray for Joe Hakos and his family. We'll be back next week with more. The weekend's coming up. A lot of stuff going on. We're going to close our show. This is Friday. We always close our show this way with Raise 'em Up. God bless you. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Guide me to who you want me to help. Raise up more that will call upon your name. Raise up those that love you and seek you and trust you. Raise them up, Lord, raise them up. Lord, we need a generation of believers who are not ashamed of the gospel. We need an army of believers, Lord, that hate to be lukewarm and will stand on your word above all else. Raise them up, Lord, raise them up. I pray for unity among those that love you. I pray that you open their eyes so that they can see your truth, Lord. I pray for your hand of protection and guidance. Raise up a generation, Lord, that will take light into this world, that will not compromise when under pressure, that will not cower, Lord, when others fall away. Raise them up, Lord, that they will proclaim that there is salvation in the name of Jesus Christ. Raise up warriors, Lord, who will fight on their knees, who will worship you with their whole hearts, Lord. Lord, call us to battle, that we may proclaim you King of kings and Lord of lords. I pray these things with all my heart. Raise them up, Lord, raise them up.
Thanks for
tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.